Get 15% off a set of Brake Mess Select, Select Pro, or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors now at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hello, welcome to Decorating Pages. I am your host, Kim Wanup. How you doing? You could probably call me party girl at this point because I've been to so many parties since we last talked. It's my feet are killing me. Let's put it that way. Very lucky to have been able to celebrate the Creative Emmys last weekend, to get to go to the nomination party, and I got to go to the performer nomination party, and then just this past weekend I went to the live Emmy telecast, which was very exciting, I must say. It's awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy a good party. I love a good dress. I have posted pictures on Decorating Pages and my own Instagram, Kim Wanup, for a little behind the scenes. A couple of the celebs. I might have taken some pictures of Gary Oldman and the backside of Jodie Foster. So I don't know. I can't ask people for pictures. I just feel weird. So then I just take secret pictures. So yeah. But I had a fantastic time. And I'm going to tell you this. If you want to network, you really should try to join the Television Academy. It is a networker. You really can meet some people. And I got to see people I hadn't seen in a while. People who I've worked with before. Kathleen, who's on Wardrobe, who was on this podcast, who was the costume designer on Veep and was nominated for Hacks. And just people who I'd never met. Regina Graves, who is a set decorator who has been on this podcast. I never met her in person. So it was fantastic. We talk all the time over email. She's done the podcast. I think of her as a friend now, and I got to meet her. So that was fantastic. Many, many other friends and acquaintances and seeing people. It's fun. So yeah, networking through the Academy is a good thing. I'm not going to lie. So if you're into that, you might want to look into the Academy too. But let's recap some winners, because we all love a winner. The winner for Outstanding Production Design for a Variety or Reality Special was Saturday Night Live production designer Joseph DiToro, production design Kenneth McLeod, art director Melissa Shanken, and set decorator Kimberly Katchigan. I do believe this is only the second year that Saturday Night Live has recognized their set decorator, so I'm very proud of that, I must say. So congrats to Saturday Night Live. Winner of Outstanding Production Design for a Variety Special was the Oscars. Production designer Misty Buckley, production designer Alana Billingsley, art director John Zucker, and art director Margot Lepsel. Congratulations. I like the Oscar set this year. I thought those really like big wraparound gold, like it sounds like almost like cloth or like fabric. So I like that set. Congratulations. Winner of Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program Fantasy or Period was Shogun. Production designer Helen Jarvis, art director Chris Beach, set decorator Lisa Lancaster, and set decorator Jonathan Lancaster. You could hear both of those decorators on the roundtable I did about a month ago. And you can hear Helen Jarvis on the roundtable from a couple weeks ago for the production designers. And I also interviewed her, I think, in February. And if you go back and listen, I might have predicted that they were going to win. I do believe I said, why should I even submit? You got it. So fantastic job. You can't take it away from them. I think the other shows, Fallout, I mean, those sets were fantastic. I mean, the competition is stiff. It's really hard, I'd say, but that's what she said. So let's move on to winner Outstanding Production Design for a Narrative Program Contemporary was The Crown. production designer Martin Childs, art director Mark Raggett, and set decorator Allison Harvey, who I interviewed in a couple months ago. And you can hear me in that podcast say, are you going in for contemporary? Because I think it was very smart for them to submit their contemporary um, episode and not be up against Shogun. That's all I'm saying. Okay, winner, outstanding production design for a narrative program half hour went to Only Murders in the Building. It is their third consecutive win. Let's say that. Patrick Howell, production designer, Casey Smith, art director, and set decorator Rich Murray. You can hear Rich on the Set Decorator Roundtable half hour. And both of them I interviewed last year on the podcast. So congratulations to everyone. There's so much out there that's fantastic. It is a tough race. I know it. I know that none of these were blowouts. I'm sure there's so much good work out there. And if you should just, look at the nominees and give them a watch, and then look at the winners and see if you agree. And let me know if you agree. That would be interesting. Let me know. So that's my Emmy recap. I had a fantastic time. I'm not gonna lie. I really like being the Emmy governor. I do. And I'm working. It's like a part-time job. It's like a full-time job I've got there, besides my other 4 jobs. So that is why in this week's What One Up is watching. I haven't watched a lot. I am watching the new season of Only Murders in the Building with production designer Patrick Howe, but set decorator Allison Korth. I love the show. I think it's just a good show. I love Steve Martin. It's interesting. They're doing like the whole other side of the building. They went to Los Angeles, um, and I actually got to speak to Patrick a little bit in the last couple of weeks, seeing him up here and there. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the show. I also just watched Ed Wood. Ed Wood, I think it was 1994, a Tim Burton film, because I'm doing a little Tim Burton research, because I will be talking to production designer Mark Scruton about Beetlejuice. So look out for that episode in a couple weeks. Ed Wood was the production design, Tom Dunfield, and set decorator Cricket Rollin, and art directed by Oka Wida, who I had the awesome opportunity of working with on Bones. He took over as a designer for a couple episodes. One of the most interesting characters and a spectacular designer with a great mind. So, but Ed Wood, anyway, if you have not seen Ed Wood, you need to give it a chance, because there's something really special. It's in black and white. And what I love about the film is the struggle of the director to get this movie made. Ed Wood was a famous B director in the 40s. But what I really love about this film, and why I rewatched it, because I remembered I really liked that they showed Hollywood before it was all built up. So when they show the Pantages, there's nothing around it. It's just the sky. Or like all of these, the Brown Derby, or like anywhere in Hollywood that they're at, it's all just sky around there. And I always felt that is so interesting of how it used to be. And I don't know. I just really like the film. And it's funny, and I think Johnny Depp is really good in it. So it's a weird one, but it's definitely worth watching if you have not watched it. Another black and white that I watched recently was Portrait of Dorian Gray from 1945. That was nominated in 1945 for Best Production Design. Cedric Gibbons and set decorator Edwin Willis. So, Portrait of Dorian Gray, if you haven't read it or ever watched one of the many versions that's out there, he basically sells his soul to whoever, devil, whatever, and this portrait, he never ages, but the portrait does, and the portrait gets ugly and like awful as he turns into a horrible person. Only the portrait reflects that. What I found, I had never seen it. What I found awesome about this film is, well, if you haven't seen it, maybe skip another 30 seconds. Here you go. The awesome thing that I loved is this is a black and white film, But when they show the portrait later in the film, it's color. And when they first show it, it's jarring. Like, you're like, oh, I'm just watching this black and white movie here. And then all of a sudden, this color portrait comes on. It's really good. It's a really good study in production design, I would say. Cinematography was great. I forgot to look up that guy. But yeah, 1945 portrait of Dorian Gray. I would recommend it. I would also recommend the film that I watched this week, Trap, M. Night Shyamalan. It's pretty good. It's no Sixth Sense, or I like The Village, or Signs. He did Signs, right? I like those three. Those, I think, are his best, right? This is still good. And so in this episode, we talked to production designer Debbie DeVilla, who skillfully brought the suspenseful film of Trap to vivid life. In this M. Night Shyamalan thriller, Cooper, who is played by Josh Hartnett, yummy, and his daughter Riley attend a concert that turns out to be a trap for a notorious serial killer. Debbie takes us behind the scenes, unraveling the meticulous, thought out, and creative way to contrast his psychopathic mind with his warm and friendly home. She also delves into how she used circular and geometric elements within the stadium to symbolize the killer's entrapment, which really heightened the dramatic tension. And then she shares her favorite set, which was basically she designed a whole concert. She designed the era tours on and a film in one. And the concert has all of these sets. Each song has a different set, which also shows the elevation of the singer, Lady Raven, who is played by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, who's this like awesome little singer and wrote all the songs and acts in the movie and is an intricate part of this film. So it twists and it turns, and it probably had one too many little endings, but I liked it. I'm recommending it. It's a good Friday night film. So I hope you enjoy. You think like, oh, this would be a good one. No, it never turns out that way.
Exactly. Yes, it's very true.
I wanted to start with maybe how did you get into the project?
Interestingly enough, I met Knight a few years back on a film called Cato,
Mm-hmm.
which is coming out the first week of October, second week,
Oh,
October
nice.
10th. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So he produced that one.
Mm.
And we shot that in Louisiana. Beautiful film, beautiful location. Cinematographer, very talented, and my work, I think, benefited visually from all of these elements. So Knight thought he would like to work with me on his next project,
Nice.
and that was lovely, a lovely opportunity.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he met me through Cato and then called me for
Fun. When did you shoot this during or a little after COVID?
a Trap. We actually filmed during the strike last year.
Oh, during the
Very
strike.
recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I
We wrapped in December.
Oh, wow, that's a quick turnaround. That's super quick. Because I kept
Amazing.
thinking, I mean, I guess we're all still a little scarred from from pandemic. I was like, how did they get all these extras? Like, how's nobody have a mask on? Or like, it's like, ugh, it's a lot.
Actually, 300 extras, I did get COVID
You
when we
did?
were filming. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of inevitable.
And then I wore my mask again through the rest of the filming.
Yeah, it happened. I know. I think,
But it was a lot. It was intense doing the stadium stuff with 300 extras. Yeah.
but I think is what more amazing you're telling me is you only had 300 extras and you filled
Yes.
and they duped the
Yeah.
whole state.
It was a lot of posts. Yeah, he did.
Wow.
He's very comfortable working with
I
post.
It didn't read like that to me at all. It looked great. I was like,
Yeah,
wow, look at
the
that.
the person who he works with on the visuals digital stuff is very talented. Did a beautiful job.
So you have such a juicy character and story here. And I know you would, I think one of the previews made me think it was in the stadium the whole time, which I was like, oh, that's interesting. But you come out of the stadium and you get more into like real world and his house and things like that. So how was it in designing that you wanted to like give his personality, his spaces versus the public spaces?
Well, it was very interesting. I mean, one of the main things that I was working from was the concept of how he describes when he goes to kill somebody or when he wants to um, hurt someone. It's because they feel whole to him.
Mm.
And there was this aspect of him feeling, you know, of course, when I'm speaking to somebody, I lose all sense of the English
So do
language.
I. So do I.
Um,
So do I.
so his character, you know, he has these different fragments. That was where I was looking. Fragments, right? You know, so there's a part of him that's the dad, a part of him that is
Yeah.
the killer, and all these fragments. But when he sees somebody that he feels is whole, like Lady Raven, that's when he wants to attack. So what I was trying to do visually was create a hole around him so that there was a sense of continuity in the stadium that didn't exist. We actually rebuilt all the facades of all of the concessions.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the dressing room hallway, I was trying to create a line that tied everything together visually so that everything around him would have this more solid construct, but he was the one from the outside of that. And then when it came to doing his home, that was more of a reflection of him and his mindset in terms of being very rigid and everything in its place.
Yeah. It's kind of a freak.
So that I think the rest of the film was a little bit more organic for me, that I was going for more organic shapes and textures.
I mean, you visually see first of all, there's a lot of close-ups of Josh Hartnett's face, which is nice. Which is nice. And he's expressing this panic and wonderment of like all these cops being around. He catches on, but I did feel like he's constantly surrounded. And I thought maybe in the design of like even when he's with his daughter on the floor, like he's constantly surrounded by all of these people and everything. Like that makes your heart pump a little bit. Like it this something could happen at any second in this, which is
It was very tight.
yeah,
Yes, it was
yeah,
always very very tight.
yeah,
And the the concert itself, even though it didn't show on film as much as I would have liked, was a huge part of what I had to work on.
yeah,
Um, and it was 50% of the film, and it was designing a full concert. So I did get a lot of my time, my pre-production time was spent on the concert and just all the logistics alone of designing the stage, because it wasn't even, we were in an active stadium. So we had a lot of logistics to address with load in, load out. When a show came while we were in tech and we had to load out again. And
yeah,
there were just a lot of issues that we couldn't even really see what I had designed until like the day before we were filming it, which in theater world is ridiculously
oh yeah,
stressful.
yes,
So, you know, bringing together the lights, the costumes, and the set elements so quickly. I actually thought the concert came out amazing. The costume designer
yeah,
did a beautiful job.
yeah,
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 beautiful. And Salika is lovely to work with. So the concert, I felt, really took up a lot of the design aspect. And of course, you know, like I say, the stadium was huge. Graphics for every aspect of it. The tightness and the rhythm really, Knight knew well in advance how he was going to film. He storyboards everything,
oh no,
and we have meetings in pre-production discussing every frame what he's looking for and how to dress for that. So
Storyboarding is so important just to getting everyone on the same page, and we know what we're going in for, we know what we're doing, and it really communicates to so many departments what we're doing. And even like, well, the shot here and the camera and the grip and how are they going to do that? And for us and dressing, like, okay, they're seeing this, like, let's focus on this. Like,
exactly.
storyboarding helps.
Exactly. I've never worked with anybody before who was so detailed. Really, really did his homework to the utmost. And he every day shot exactly as he boarded. Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice too, because it can go wrong. We talked about this. We talked about this, and now you're over here, and we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody planned for that, but now you've decided to go over here. Okay, let's move it all over. I do have some photos that I'll of sets and everything to show you. I did want to ask, so you shot on location in, did you go to Philly at all?
No,
It was just
it was
Canada.
all in Toronto.
All in Toronto. Yeah. I was like, 'cause
Yeah.
I'm from Philly. So I'm always excited to see a M. Night Shyamalan because I'm like, oh, it's going to be some sort of Philly, and
Yeah.
you look for
No,
it.
he's very faithful to his hometown, but no, we were slotted to shoot actually in Cincinnati because of the stadium access. There was a stadium there that he liked visually. But once the strike happened and things started getting very trepidatious,
Yeah.
we to the stadium in Toronto.
Well, I mean, it works. I also wanted to ask, I mean, now that you've said it's all Toronto, but the location of his house and the neighborhood that it's in, to me, I'm like, well, that's where my aunt lives. Like that's, it looks exactly like Philly. Those split level houses in that
Yeah.
little community, like so perfect. I was like, oh, they didn't even go to Philly for this. This looks great.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. Good locations.
Yeah,
Who,
Toronto lends itself very, I'm sorry to say, because, it's leaving the country, but it lends itself to a lot of looks.
yeah. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. It's like a little New York, it's like a little Philly, like it can be many, many things. Also, the colors of like his world versus the concert and everything. I thought that was really interesting, like the coolness and then like some intensity. Were you working with lighting a lot with that to talk about all of this?
Actually, to be perfectly honest, no. I think it's really just a very good sign of Knight, really understanding what he is looking for and directing everybody
Oh, nice.
accurately for that.
Mm. I mean,
We had a few visual pre-production meetings, but surprisingly, the pre-production time, you think you have so much, but it
no,
goes so fast.
it goes
It
so
goes so
fast.
fast.
Yeah. How much prep did you have?
Well,
Do you remember?
hard prep was 8 weeks, and I would say a solid 6 weeks of those, I was doing the drawings for the concert and having concert meetings and really working out the details of this concert, which originally, Knight and I had started talking in the spring, and originally he was thinking he would hire a concert designer to just handle the concert part, and I would just handle the film part. But when that didn't seem to be going in a direction that he liked, I jumped in. But at that point, I had lost quite a bit of time.
Right.
And had a lot to accomplish. And it did eat into the normal film pre-production time because of that. But I think it turned out terrific. I was very pleased.
I mean, and I kudos to his daughter, the talent that she is.
Yes.
I mean, I had to look it up. I was like, they had to write all of these songs, or did she have these songs? Like,
yes. No, she wrote each song for the film. Yeah.
She was great. A good little actress too. I was like, whoa, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you,
very,
Nepo,
very lovely.
Nepo baby with talent. Look at you.
He's a great dad. He's really amazing.
I mean, visually, also you have to deal with all these graphics because, like, like every concert now or the concert that you design has these huge screens, and that's a whole nother world to incorporate these
Yes,
graphics. And
yes,
I mean,
yes. And we know a lot. We had a lot of meetings just on what was going to be on the screens and the direction. Like the Knight had given me his direction for the concert was simple. He wanted, very clean lines, and to work in natural elements. So I started to think in terms of the concert elements starting a little bit tighter and opening up towards the last song, so that Lady Raven, as this movie progressed and as the concert progressed, she's getting stronger and she comes into her own element and um, just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until her strength is large enough to take over
well, yeah, she does.
Josh's Josh's strength. So she doesn't even know what she has the power in her.
Right.
So that was something I wanted to flow into the concert as well. So we started off with earth, and then we went into water,
Oh, nice.
and then we went into fire, and then we went into air. So that air was more open, and then I brought in the fabrics, and so that everything would flow more.
I liked the house when she's playing piano. This set
One of my
on
favorites.
stage.
Yeah. And that was rain. If you water, there was a lot of moisture on the screens. We went with the clouds and the rain and fogginess, so to speak.
Yeah.
There was a memory. That was her memory moment.
It's it's so great to be able to use someone's talent. Like, I mean, just like he has this daughter who has a talent, and then you can showcase it. But then to design around that is really special, especially when you're dealing with someone's daughter. I would feel so much pressure.
It was a little nerve
Right.
wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would feel like, oh God.
They were so pleasant
Yeah.
to work with, really. I can't express it enough. Salika was so grateful for everything, and it was really a lovely group.
So when you did you say so you had to load in into this stadium arena, and then you had to load out if they had other
Yeah, there
concerts?
was one weekend that they had booked an event, so we didn't really actually put the scenery on stage. We just set up the screens
Hmm.
just to sort of start programming them. And then when they had the event, the screens had to come down so that we could give them back the stadium, and then we had to set it back up. But then we brought in all the hard scenery, which, as I was saying, it was so late in the game. I would have loved to have, and for the choreographer too, was very, very difficult because those set elements were part of the choreography.
Yeah.
And she really needed to get her dancers into like the TV screens and whatnot. So, um, know, it takes a village. Everybody came together in the end, but it was a little nerve wracking for sure.
How long of a shoot is it?
I think we were 8 weeks,
Eight.
if I remember correctly.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, we finished the first week of December, so yeah, that would have been about 8 weeks.
so you also have the set of where he's holding people captive.
Yes.
And I to me, it's like, oh my gosh, you have this much space and you have to get as much information in the dressing as you possibly can. But you're also like giving people clues of like where the guy is, like, like washer and dryer, utility sink, like it's really it's such a compact, nice little set that you gave the guy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, there was, I mean, if it could be fun to design, a scary, threatening basement, but it was fun to design that. And again, he knew exactly where he wanted the camera position. So it was relatively straightforward for me to understand what information to put in the frame and how to dress it.
And were all of those shot, or is that like a green screen that he has on? Did you shoot that first?
Well,
The
no, all the stuff on any of the phone screens was comped in
Compton.
post.
Okay.
But we did, was built on stage. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have it, but you have her dressing room too, these big, beautiful blue curtains and the mirror light, the makeup lights and everything, which is like a very important scene in the film, but it's a very intimate space. And did you have thoughts about making that like blue and cool and like,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And the night and Salika wanted her costume to be white most of the time.
Mm.
So I was working off of that information. So I wanted her to feel again part of her environment and not create anything so hard. I was looking for that softness and also to make everything around her feel whole.
Yeah, it's a very awkward scene. It's a very,
But
it's,
he stands out. He's
yeah,
definitely,
yeah. He's
the opposite. Yeah.
yeah. It's the wardrobe is very good in this as to like keeping him in his character, and as you said, like all of the dancers and everything, but also dressing like like a lot of teenage kids in the moment, like contemporary. It's hard. Like just
Yeah.
it's trying to get that vibe and not go too much and not make them too
Yeah.
outrageous or whatever. Like I thought that was all really
Yeah.
well done too.
Yeah. Thank you. I do think the costume designer was extraordinary. And, we spent a lot of time. I did work closely with her. We spent a lot of time dealing with the graphics for, say, the album covers.
Mm,
And because we had to put an album cover on the t-shirt.
yeah, all that t-shirt design you did.
Yeah. And the little girl wears that t-shirt for the entirety of the film practically. That was her costume. So
I thought about that because there's a scene where they're at the t-shirt concession stand, and I thought like that's a really expensive set. Like it's a weird thing. Like or like somebody goes into like, oh, I'm just gonna pull this out of my closet. I'm like, well, there's $1,000. Like
yeah.
here's like, but making a ton of t-shirts in different sizes, like I've done it. Like
Uh-huh.
it costs so much money.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. The GAC, we had so
Yeah,
much GAC and the posters and the banners and
yeah, it's a
uh,
lot.
the graphics were huge, definitely a huge piece of it. But I really enjoyed it, and we had to come up with who Lady Raven was, stylistically through the graphics.
Yeah. I have screenshot of
The living room.
his living room
Mhm.
in his house. She has another t-shirt on there. I think she changes when she gets home, or maybe that's the same one. Maybe she
Looks
took
like, yeah, you're right. It is a different T-shirt. It is Lady Raven, though. It is one
yeah,
of the album covers.
yeah. So this to me, I was like, oh, it's like look at my perfect living room, my perfect house
Exactly.
in my bright colors, like
Yeah.
everyone, and it's like a rainbow of like happiness here that he's pretending. It's like
Yes, and it's like the presentation for the neighbors. If somebody comes in,
yeah.
what do we see? How do we present ourselves? Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't seen it, just toggle speed through. I really thought the wife was in on it. At one point I was like, "Oh my God,
Oh, interesting.
is this in this scene in the kitchen at the end? Is she gonna be like, how did you get caught? You've been messing this up for us."
Oh, how funny! How funny!
I was like, but I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it didn't go that way because I hate to figure things out. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be surprised by it. But yeah, is this a set or is this a location?
Yes,
This
this
is
is a set on stage.
oh nice. It's a great match to that house. That house to me, I'm like, oh my God, it's my aunt's neighborhood. It's so funny.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we did choose the exterior first, and then it was easier to kind of design the house backwards to match that exterior, so to speak, you know.
Um, did did you find locations easily? Like you said that you were thinking Cincinnati for one arena. Like how was location finding for the arena?
It was easy relatively. We had a very strong location manager, and probably before pre-production actually started, went out to Toronto for a week and kind of pre-scouted
Hmm.
things. So we knew what main streets were available, you know, for that big street fair. It wasn't difficult to choose which one was the right one for the film.
Hmm.
Um, Definitely took some time to choose the right house, but again, that was there. The stadium was the stadium.
Yeah.
There was nothing, you know, to do with for that. And again, the exterior stadium, we didn't have a lot of choices, so we knew Knight knew exactly what he was looking for, and that was very easy. What was difficult was making the deal with the stadium for shooting, but there weren't that many exterior locations, and we did build quite a bit on stage.
Yeah, it's
In the end, it was a lot built.
because you have his living room, the kitchen, the bathroom, and the
The
garage,
whole house.
the full house. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
First
yeah,
floor.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
a lot.
I mean, the bedroom actually, we did it when we were filming. We did film Riley's bedroom
Oh,
on location as well as on stage. We reproduced it, but it didn't make it into the film.
well, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
I would have
yeah,
liked to have seen what a super fan she was up in that bedroom.
yeah. We have a lot of pictures on there. Yeah,
It says, I always love to talk also about research and how we all deep dive into research. And I know doing like teenage girls, all of a sudden my whole like Instagram filter becomes like teenage girl things. And then I'm like, I gotta get out of this algorithm. Like, I gotta get out of this. But in research, because there's a very intricate character played by Haley Mills who is the profiler for this character. And I've thought, oh man, I would have liked to have seen her workspace too. I mean, this is just like decorator head of like, oh,
yeah,
that's a good character to decorate for. You always think of
yeah,
like, oh, that would have been that's a good space.
yeah.
I liked her character. I liked her voice and everything. Feel like I needed more of her, but I wish,
There was actually a little bit more, but didn't make it in. She was fabulous. She really did an amazing job, I thought too,
yeah,
and she was really fabulous to work with. Yeah.
real
There was actually, yeah, I guess yeah, we only see her. I can't remember if the scene was in the movie now. Um, when the FBI has set up a whole surveillance room
room. Yeah,
next to the dressing room.
yes.
Was that in?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah, you do see that room. Yeah. So in that stadium, were those rooms there? Were you building a lot of that?
No, that was one of the things we really wanted to make work on location because of relationships from the hallway.
Yeah.
Knight really very specifically had some views that he wanted to feel that Josh was trapped in the hallway, but could see into these different rooms. So it was two different stadiums. We actually shot at three stadiums. So it was the exterior
Oh,
was
wow.
one stadium, the concession and stage was one stadium, and then the dressing rooms were a third stadium.
Oh, wow. Isn't that that's crazy? It takes three
Yeah.
stadiums to make one one stadium.
And or you know working around stadium schedules, that was very tricky for the location manager. I give him big kudos for organizing this shoot around that. So
Who is your decorator? Brittany Morrison?
yes,
Yes,
Britt, yes,
Brittany Morrison.
this lovely woman.
Yeah. Um, do you usually are you based in New York or are you based in
I
LA?
am based in New York.
You're
No,
based in New
based in
York.
New York.
So it is like you for designers, like you get to town and you gotta like crew up. It's such a weird thing sometimes of like, I gotta find a new family. I gotta trust these people. And if you haven't
Very
worked with them
much so.
before, it's hard. It's hard to trust when you don't have that language between you and but sometimes it's exciting too. It's new things, new people, new ideas.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. I try to be open. I would have loved on this project to have brought in my keys. I really would have loved that
mm,
because it was, it was important to me. But didn't roll that way, so I had to be flexible. And uh, it's a really great crew in Toronto. So, and because of the strike,
yeah.
everybody was unemployed, so it was kind of I got to pick the cream of the crop, and it wasn't too hard
That's
to.
that's nice. That's a good thing. Sometimes
Yeah,
sometimes it
yeah,
helps.
but it's a little scary, definitely trying to create the time it takes to create that dialogue and get to know a new person. It's just another piece of the
Yeah.
reproduction. But
So let me ask you, how did you get into designing?
mm, I was very young. I'm one of those unusual stories where I made up my mind when I was 16 that this is what I wanted to do, and I just stayed on track until I got there. I went to college for set design for theater
Mm.
with the goal to work as a production designer. And at that time, probably a long, 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 long time ago, there was only one or two schools that offered programs for production designers. So I was advised that a good path would be study set design for theater, which I did. And it was I feel, excellent preparatory path. I learned all about scenery. And in the summers, I would do summer stock. And one of the summers, I worked as the scenic artist under Jane Muskie, who went
Oh,
on to be a very big production designer. Yes.
yes,
So
I've interviewed her.
when I graduated college, I had already had a great network. And she started hiring me as her scenic artist, hence my credit on Young Guns.
Yeah,
Um,
that's such a good. I
yeah.
recently rewatched that. It still holds up.
It's great.
It
It's a little
does.
dated. It's a
It,
little dated.
it is, but it holds up as like this like 80s movie with like all of these people in it trying.
But yeah,
Yeah, it holds
yeah.
up.
Oh, it was so much fun to work on that. It
Oh,
was an
that's fun.
amazing opportunity. Yeah, so I worked with Jane as her scenic for a number of years, and I just gradually kept working my way through the art department. And also as a scenic, I found I learned a lot about scenery construction, right?
Yeah.
Best ways to cheat and what you could do and all of this. And yeah, so I went from scenic. I've done everything. Um,
I think
art
that's always the way
directing
to
and
go. I always tell people that it's like you have to work your way up in this because you learn so much in every other position, and it's always valuable. You always know, like, oh, I can count on the scenic to do this, or I can, I should know, the PA can grab this, or my set
and I
design.
really do believe that. I really, really, truly do believe that when I meet another designer who does not have that same kind of depth, I feel like their crew knows it. There's always this sense of like,
Yeah,
whatever. You really have to protect yourself more with having really strong people around you
yeah,
if you come at this from one angle.
yeah.
So
And funny too, like there's such different types of designers and some draft and some paint and some draw and some don't do anything. Some are more
right,
graphic. Some just pull
right.
images and some can communicate well more than they can draw or whatever. And it's great too to work with people and learn people's different languages. And even with decorators, with designers of how we talk to each other, like I'm more visual. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do basically, and then like I'm going to try to do that and pull my own world in there. But, I don't, and the funny thing is, sometimes I don't know how other decorators work. It's so funny. You don't know because you
Right. I
don't
don't
work
know
with
what
other
the
decorators.
designers were. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But we can only be true to ourselves as artists and enjoy the process.
Yeah. But you do
And
know
I
when
think
it's wrong.
yeah. Yes.
You do know when you're like, what is he talking about? I don't
Yeah,
we don't do that.
no, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Um, one of the films I really enjoyed that you did was Maria Full of Grace. That was a fantastic film.
Yeah.
It was such a good film. How was that
Yeah.
experience? Was it
It
fun?
was wonderful. It
Yeah.
was really, really wonderful. It was a very tiny movie
Yeah.
and very, very tiny. When I think back to how small my crew was on that film, I'm like, how did I do that? How did we pull that off? Um, but it was a beautiful film, beautifully crafted, and Josh is was wonderful to work with the director. You know, I'm always pleased when people respond well to one of the films, but it's really the director's project. You know, I'm there supporting them, and it's really all Josh. But we I we didn't. I think the even the bathroom set was kind of a one of those prefab sets. So we didn't really build anything. It was a long time ago. You didn't have the tax incentives where you had to build something on stage, and
Right.
we were moving fast. And again, it was a situation. I think Jim, do you know, I did a few films with that DP, and I have such high regard for him as a talent. Um, the subject, you know, was so raw and so visceral. And Josh really wanted to keep it as natural and documentary style as possible.
Yeah.
And we were in Jackson Heights, and I think it might have been my first time going to Jackson Heights for that film in Queens. And I grew up in Queens, and I just was amazed. There's a truck going. I was just amazed at it really was another country. Nobody spoke English.
Right.
And I really did my research there, and I really sent the decorator out to the thrift stores in that neighborhood. Like, let's
Yeah.
make it as true to this culture as we possibly can.
Yeah, I do. I think that all the time. That's one of the things I think is like, where do these people shop? And that's where like I should try to go and look and like that's always a thing of like, well, what is their hierarchy and where do they just go to the dollar store? Are they down at Kmart?
Yeah,
Are they at
right,
Target? Like, and it
right.
really gives you a huge sense of like, you know, the style that they can achieve at these stores. Or
Yeah, and I really wanted to go as honest as possible and not make any judgmental comment about the culture. I was really just trying to show it as it was. And one of the benefits of location scouting for that film, I used all my location scouting as my research for the community
mm,
because then I could see the colors that they were attracted to. I could see the textures. I could see how they used contact paper and
yeah,
vinyl, and
vinyl.
and reproduce that in the apartments.
Yeah, well, I do think not knowing you and have seen that movie, like that type of film sticks with you. Something in it sticks with you of like how people are being treated or, you know, what's really going on in the world. And it did, like you said, like it does seem like a documentary, like you're just peering into this woman's world. It was a great like design of it and like just peeping into
Thank you.
these
Thank you.
people's worlds. It was
Yeah,
really impactful.
I'm very proud and pleased to have been part of that project. It was really a lovely project.
Are you
Every
work
now and again, something special comes up.
are you working now? You wrapping up? Are you
Right,
getting out?
this week, no, I did finish something in July, and I am starting something in October. So
Nice.
I'm
Well,
having
that's good.
a little respite right now.
That's good. Is it slow? It's still
Yeah,
a little slow over here. I'd have to
it's a
say.
little slow here too,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, I'm still able to get the crew that I like.
Yeah. 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 Me too. That's how you know, like, oh, everybody's working. This sucks. This is great. But then you learn, you know, you meet new people and you learn like, oh, they're great or they're not.
Yes, yeah. It's one of the really magical things about what we do for a living is, being able to put our team together and sometimes there's new people on the team and the collaboration is really a lovely piece of the whole process.
Yeah, I do love that. I also love that, good or bad, there's a time limit that we have together. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't want this
Oh
to
yeah.
end, or I
Oh
can't wait
yeah.
for this to end. There's a very big time limit in all of our
Yeah.
lives. So,
Yes. Well, you might have noticed I don't do television. I don't know
no.
how that would work.
Yeah, it's
It kind of goes on and on and on and on and on.
well, the funnier thing to me is that at least there used to be such a stigma of like, well, they do TV. They can't do films. TV is so much harder. It's so
Oh,
much
oh
harder.
my God, yes.
It's like,
Oh
what?
my God, yes.
So
Yeah.
there's still that stigma of like, oh, you don't have that many film. We can't hire because they don't have the film resume. It's like, done 1 million hours of television. Are you kidding me?
Now, I know, I know.
It's a
I feel you.
weird
Yeah.
weird little clique we have that producers who think they can figure it
Yeah.
out. But
Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you for giving me this time on a Saturday. I really enjoyed the film. I was like edge of
Thank
my seat. I don't even understand why Josh took his shirt off at one point, but I was happy for it.
It's just beefcake. I was like, because that wasn't in the script, and I saw that, and I was like, oh,
Oh, I was like, wait, he's taking the shirt off so he doesn't get blood on it? I don't even understand. I'm like, or just,
I just roll with it, enjoy it. I think it was a ride, it was just
yeah.
all fun, and
No, I liked it.
yeah, glad you enjoyed it, and I if you could manage to make it to Shadow is only
Oh,
going to be streaming on Max
oh
October
yeah.
10th.
Oh
So
yeah.
check that out because I think that's kind of beautiful.
Oh, I
film.
definitely will. I'm pretty. I am on Max/HBO like every night. Basically, that's like my go-to. It's like that's what I got to see what's on, and then I go to other platforms.
It will come
Yes.
up and you'll
Oh,
check that
perfect.
out.
Oh,
It was really nice to meet you, Kim.
yes, so nice to meet you again. Thank you for getting together on a Saturday, and are you sure you're okay?
It's fun to talk with you. It was really a unique interview, so thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
So I'm so thankful for getting the opportunity to speak to Debbie because she's got a lot of films. She's done a ton of films. But Maria Full of Grace really has always stuck with me as this really, really realistic piece of work, like documentary style, but it's a film. And just this whole subject matter, like I said, has kind of stuck with me. I think too, living in Los Angeles is just kind of can connect to you. I don't know why I'm saying that, but yes. So I have enjoyed her work. So it was a great opportunity to speak with her. And thank you, Debbie, for coming on and talking about the design of it. So I'm not going to get the YouTube video up by tomorrow. So I will get it up this week so you can see some of the sets that we have talked about. But yeah, I will get that up. I hope you're watching those videos. I'm taking a lot of time to make them. And if you are, like them and share a comment, and I would love that. That would be great. Also, if you have time on your platform that you listen to this podcast, if you could leave a review. Look, people, I never ask for anything. Sometimes I ask. I forget about these things that I'm supposed to, like, call to action and, review my podcast, and, yeah, it's like a whole game. I hate the game. I love the podcast. I hate the whole social media game I have to play to do the podcast. It's exhausting. But yes. So if you could review, like, subscribe, all that jazz, it would be awesome. And if you want the email, sign up on the Decorating Pages website, and I send a little email every week about who is going to be on the podcast. That's all I do. I don't overwhelm your inbox. It's cool. I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? Yes. So like I said, I have Mark Scruton, production designer, coming up of Beetlejuice. I also have an episode of all of the books that I've been listening to, which I think are very beneficial to film students or people in this industry who love this industry. I have some really good recommendations, which I talk about here and there, but I have so many more. So I'm going to do a whole podcast on that. And I still have 2 film studies I've never put out. I just can't. The time. But I hope you got an earful. I am Kim Wannop for Decorating Pages.